Welcome to the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, and we're ready to talk about this past week's football. But first, let's bring on my co-host, Joe Dalio, then our special guest, Ray Bova. He has been a guest on our show a couple times before and enjoys calling into local Buffalo talk radio shows. So without further ado, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going great. How you doing today?
I'm fabulous. Good thing we get to sit here and talk about the Bills winning the division for the fourth straight year in a row. How awesome is that? And we get to host a playoff game against Adam's Steelers. How funny they would come full circle like that.
I thought about that. I thought of Adam the second I found out that the Bills would be playing the Steelers here. But yeah, definitely good to be talking about positive things. If you would have told me 6 weeks ago that we'd be celebrating a division championship for the Bills, I would have called you crazy. But there's a lot of people who believed more than I did, I'm sure. But still, again, great that we can have this conversation this week.
Exactly. Better late than never. And now let's welcome our special guest, Ray, back on. Hey, Ray, how you doing? Good to have you back on.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you thinking of me.
Hey, no problem. So, what have you been doing since the last time you were on our show?
A lot of eating, a lot of running to work it off, and a lot of family celebrations.
So anyway, are you guys ready to talk about the games that happened this past weekend?
I am definitely
week
ready.
18 of the regular season?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
So let's get started. So obviously we begin with the Saturday game at 4:30 with the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road looking to clinch a playoff spot at the Baltimore Ravens, who already had the number one seed locked and were resting a few guys to get ready for the playoffs. Well, it was a very rainy and sloppy game, to say the least. The Steelers held on to win the game 17-10. So, Joe, what did you think of that very wet game?
Yeah, it was old-time football a little bit, football in the mud and just kind of, with that rain, it just, I don't know, makes it like a postseason feel in a way. But I was a little surprised. I was wondering how Baltimore was going to handle this. I get it, the fact that you got the number one seed clinched and you're going to rest guys. But, in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, and they were burned by this a few years ago, the last time they were the number one seed in the AFC. And, I think they did the same thing and ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs, at home as the number one seed. So part of me in the back of my mind was thinking, maybe are they going to treat this like a potential preseason game, at least get the starters in there for a couple of series and get them, some reps and some plays and everything. And, maybe just keep them fresh because again, if, you're not playing this week and then you got to buy, the next one, it's going to be 2 weeks. And, we've seen this before where sometimes, teams get burned by too much rest and lack of rhythm. So it's going to be interesting to see, how the Ravens, I mean, it could have the opposite effect too. And it could be exactly what the doctor ordered and, strengthen the team as well. And I guess we'll only, find out in a couple of weeks here. But, I was kind of curious as to how they were going to handle it. And I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, that, that they didn't at least, Lamar Jackson and some of these other people play a series or two. On the other hand, maybe it was smart because, you look at teams like the Eagles or even the Bills and the Dolphins, who are playing all out and, the Eagles trying to still, win a division, even though their chances were very low. And as a result, they lost a couple of key guys potentially. So, it maybe, they're head coaches for a reason here because they're a lot smarter than us. So perhaps, they knew what they were doing all along. And again, time will tell. But, kudos to the Steelers. They certainly had something to play for and they went out and got it and, coming to town here in a few days.
Exactly. We congratulate them on that win. Ray, your thoughts?
As a Bills fan, I wanted the Steelers to win. providing everything, if the chips fell the way they were supposed to, and we were going to be the 2 seed, we knew we were going to play the Steelers if the Steelers won. And that's when you get to the playoffs, everybody's a good team. They're professional. They got there for a reason. But if you have to pick, I wanted the Steelers in the first round, and that's what we got. But Joe, you're right. You don't know, are they going to sit some starters? Now, the thing that you 100% are guaranteed, if you sit your starter, they're not going to get hurt. And
True.
As a result, TJ Watt had to play. I mean, Pittsburgh's not going to sit their starters. And as a result, an injury happened. How unfortunate, high risk, high reward. And the reward was the playoffs. And the risk was a starter gets hurt, an MVP caliber starter. So Buffalo really caught a break with that. That's not a sure thing now that we defeat them in the first round, but I love our chances even more.
Right.
But I think Baltimore did the right thing. Why? I wouldn't want Allen to play if that game meant absolutely nothing. We're going to get a break. They had nothing to play for. So I'm glad. I'm glad we got the Steelers. I'm glad for how it turned out.
I'm glad we got the Steelers too, because statistically they got one of the worst offenses in the NFL too. So if you want a first round matchup like that, that'll help our defense at least.
Sure. And if you think about it, I mean, if it's not the Steelers, who would you want that's in the playoffs first round? I mean, could it have been the Colts? I mean, do you say Houston? I mean, everybody's tough, but I think the Steelers are the weakest of the 7 teams that are still surviving the AFC.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. I mean, like you said, every team is tough, and anyone can beat anyone at this point. But if there's a weakest link in the AFC playoffs anyway, I think it would definitely be the Steelers. And that's what the Bills get for being the 2nd seed. That's one of the rewards that they get. Again, not an automatic out by any chance, but, the weakest link, and, the chances are certainly better than maybe against somebody else.
And you can even go the opposite. The other teams in the AFC, I'll bet we're rooting for the Bills not to make it this weekend. They were hoping for that Jacksonville win. They were hoping for the Pittsburgh win, and they were hoping for the Bills loss, because the Bills are a tough foe to play against. So we can root for who we want to play against, and other teams can root for who they don't want in it. So I'm sure that was the sentiment.
Yeah, I agree with that too. We get the positive side, and everybody else got to watch.
That's right.
Exactly. Moving on to the 8:15 game on Saturday evening with those Houston Texans, led by first-year head coach D'Amico Ryans and young quarterback C.J. Stroud. And they didn't have Will Anderson playing, but I think he's going to be back this week, which is good. Taking on the Minshew Mania, Gardner Minshew with the mustache. That's right, folks. He still has it. And the Indianapolis Colts on the road at Lucas Oil Stadium. With a 23-19 win for the Houston Texans, they've clinched their first playoff spot since 2019. And coupled with the Jacksonville loss on Sunday, the Texans were able to clinch the AFC South Division title and snag it away from the Jags. So, Joe, what did you think? Ray, what did you think about that?
That was an exciting game. I got home in time to watch some of it after going out with some friends. I can't be happier for Houston. I can't be happier for Stroud. If I'll be honest, if we didn't have Allen as our quarterback, CJ Stroud is who I would want as our quarterback. Young, I can't believe how poised he is. The guts he has for making the throws that he did late in the game. I'm normally not one of those fans when a sports player leaves my team and goes to another, but I was happy to see Singletary rush well and do well. I didn't realize Jerry Hughes was still playing. I think he got hurt that game, but I think it's good for the league. I think it's selfishly, I think it's good to have Houston there. If we get down the line, if the first 4 seeds win, I think Houston can take out Baltimore. For the AFC Championship, hopefully to be hosted by us if we get to that. just an exciting team. It's the first time I really set time aside to watch them, and very, very impressed. They were struggling against the run. I did notice that. Colts just racked up hundreds of yards in rushing. But I'm content, and I was and I'm glad that they even got the 4th seed. I'm glad for the city that they won the division. I mean, I'm normally not that type of person for another city, but I'm happy for them.
Exactly. We could be happy for another city that
right.
has worked hard and has put their blood, sweat, and tears into it all year long, like any other team in the league. Joe, what did you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a feel-good story with the Houston Texans there. It's good to see. It's neat. And, I haven't been sold on the Colts all year. And, we're talking about Minshew. Give him credit for taking that team where they were, 1 game away from potentially winning the division. That wasn't in the cards at all. And, especially with Richardson going down, and there wasn't much optimism, but somehow, some way that team kept winning. They stayed in the race here right until the last game. I still thought the Texans were the better team and expected the Texans to win this game. But again, raise your hand if you thought the Houston Texans would be the AFC South champions. There's only 3 of us here and nobody are raising their hands. But if there was 100 of us here, I highly doubt any of us would be raising our hands unless one of us was from Houston or something. But even then, I don't think you'd get too many people saying, oh, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. We saw improvement coming. And as the season went on, I said, you know what? It's definitely looking like this is a playoff team, but never saw them as a division winning team. But, that division championship is totally well-deserved and totally well-earned. And, we'll talk about, potential progression of the playoffs in it a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win their first game here as well. But just it's nice to see, and I wasn't too surprised with the result. I thought Houston would win this game, and again, I did not think that they would win this division, but here they are.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of knew at the beginning of the year they were going to have a culture set with D'Amico Ryans coming over from the 49ers. And I knew they were going to be able to play good defense and be competitive. It was just a matter of could CJ Stroud impress in his rookie year, and he exceeded my expectations. And I think he exceeded Houston's expectations and the whole league's expectations.
Mm-hmm. What would be interesting to know, if Houston had the first pick in the draft, would they have picked Stroud, or would they have picked who's the guy in Carolina?
Bryce Young.
Yes. Who would they have picked? Here Carolina moves up, gives away the farm, which you have to do for the first pick. Still end up the last place in the league, and Stroud just falls to Houston, and they go on and win the division. I mean, what a gift,
right?
How well that turned out.
I think only Houston management knows the answer to that question about what their intention was or what they were going to do. Perhaps they had their heart set on him all along, but perhaps they didn't, and again, there's only a few high-level executives that I think know the answer to that question.
But, I mean, I know in terms of instant gratification, CJ Stroud was the answer, but don't sleep on Carolina, I think, in the next few years, because I think they're going to be improved, and I do think Bryce Young, even though they only won 2 games, the games that he lost, he put a lot of good things on tape, and there was not so good things, but I think he still has a place in this league to be a decent quarterback for Carolina. Because look at what happened when they had Cam Newton at number 1. It didn't happen for him right away, right. And it wasn't going to happen for Bryce Young right away either. So don't panic, Carolina fans. I still think Young could be the answer for you guys. It just wasn't going to happen this year.
The one common thread with all young quarterbacks that do well is the supporting cast. Whether it's veterans, whether you got the big offensive linemen that are protecting, or you have the counter with the run, it's no matter how good you are, if you need the supporting cast. That's what it comes down to. So, and he obviously doesn't have it yet, but he's going through the growing pains.
Exactly. Just like Trevor Lawrence did in his first year. Look how he turned out. So
right. And they got some high draft picks coming up still. So they're going to be building that supporting cast. And I agree with both of you.
Mhm.
I think this team is going to build nicely, and you're going to see some progress in the next few years.
They just, like I said, if they get the right head coach,
Mhm.
I don't think they're really that far away. It's crazy to say at 2-15, but still,
Right.
they're not.
It's the NFL, and look what happened in Houston this year. So, I'm not saying it's going to happen that quickly for Carolina, but how many times have we seen this in the NFL, where a team is at the bottom and all of a sudden now they're a division winner, So Houston was in that same situation not too long ago.
And it's so good for the sport, for the fan base. It's just good for the league. I love the rotation of, good to bad, or bad
Right.
to good.
Exactly. Look at the rotation. Look at the rotation we went. We went from 17 years of no playoffs to playoffs 5 years in a row, and 4 of those years were those straight years were divisional titles.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it wasn't
That's
supposed to
huge
happen that
rotation.
long, but yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm. At least it eventually happened, right? So if it happened to us 17 years later, it can happen to Carolina and some
That's
of these
right.
other teams in today's NFL. So
That's right.
Definitely.
let's move on. We got to take a look at that 1:00 Sunday Jacksonville at Tennessee game. It looked as if Jacksonville was going to wrap up the AFC South title, but with a loss of 28-20 to Tennessee, which this game would end up being Mike Vrabel's last game. I was surprised about that. They would go 9-8 to miss the playoffs. So, Joe, did you see that coming?
I actually did. I didn't see a couple of weeks ago. I didn't see this coming. But going into this game, I felt like it was the perfect storm against Jacksonville. I mean, the fact that they were slumping and not playing well, and Trevor Lawrence maybe not 100%. Tennessee, in fact, I was even talking to some friends a little bit before this, and I said, you know what? Don't count Tennessee out of this game, because first of all, they're a much better team at home. All year long, they played quite well at home. And I had a feeling, I said, this might even be Vrabel's last game, based on some of the information I was hearing. And this was their Super Bowl. They wanted to send him out on a high note if he was leaving. This was the last game. This was their Super Bowl. What better way to knock a division rival out of the playoffs? So as I'm watching this at first, it looks like, okay, I was right. This is what's going to happen. And then you could see Jacksonville, how they're a comeback team. And I said, you know what, I can maybe see them taking this away. And it was close, and Tennessee was there and they had it. But, I'm like, I don't know. And Tennessee stayed in the game. And again, those guys played, with their hearts. And, even Derrick Henry, that's another thing that, potentially his last game in Tennessee, and he was going to want to go out on a high note and ride to the sunset with a big win here. So, just Jacksonville had everything going against them, and, and themselves as well. And just, they just stumbled down the road towards the end. And Tennessee again wanted to end on a high note, and certainly, and I kind of found it ironic, that guess who the quarterback was that did this, right? Ryan Tannehill. We talked about Levis and how the future is bright for this team, and it with him potentially, but crazy how Tannehill was the guy that got this done with them.
Yeah, and I think the Jacksonville losing. You could trace it back to that one play that I think they're going to be talking about for a long time. The Jaguars were at the 1 yard line, going for it on 4th and goal, and Trevor Lawrence just tries to reach the ball over the goal line, but he was just inches short.
Yes.
So I mean, was Trevor Lawrence trying to do a self-push there? I mean, but let me tell you something though. I mean, you could say say what you want, but the Eagles basically enabled anybody to do that play now, or a variation of it where the quarterback reaches the goal line. I mean, we're going to probably be seeing that for a long time in the NFL now that it's not banned. You take advantage of it. And even the Bills, they were pushing their way to victory the last game of the year too.
That's right. That's
Yeah, I
right.
say
So,
it. Just because teams can't stop it doesn't mean it should be illegal. That would be like saying, the Edmonton Oilers and Wayne Gretzky are scoring too many power play goals, so we're going to stop doing power plays now. It's just because teams can't stop it, I don't think it should be outlawed. So
right, and like I said, Troy Vincent said the plays evolve too for other teams.
Right.
It's not it.
Right.
So, and I believe it was like I said, Kansas City against Denver. They did the tight end tush push with Noah Gray and got the first down with that.
Exactly.
Thursday Night Football, which was pretty cool to see.
Hey, if
So,
it's within the rules, you got to do it.
Mhm.
Like you can't stop a kneel down at the end of the game. Are they gonna ban that because the defense can't have access to the ball? I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Hey, I mean, with the NFL always being labeled as the no fun league, this is actually the one play that's at least made it fun to watch, especially in this era, of penalties and refs being in the way of everything. This is the one fun part of football that the NFL finally got right, I think.
That's true.
And I think Allen, even in our game, there's one play he went up. He went over the pile. And I don't know if Fournette was pushing his tush to get him up, but that was a new one that evolved.
Exactly. Now we just got to go back to having kick returns next year. Get rid of that or modify that fair catch at the 15 or yard line, 25 yard line touchback rule, in which they said they were going to take a look at, which I'm glad they did. They said they were going to try it for a year. It didn't work. So now they're going to reevaluate that. But how about even the punt return that for Deontay Hardy, which we'll get into later into our game. But I thought that was pretty cool. I love to see that. I was screaming, that's why you don't take that out of the game, Goodell. I said that. I screamed that to the TV after he had a punt return for a touchdown. And then I pulled a Chris Berman. I went, oh, those Bills special teams. I used to say that all the time. And, anyway, moving on to Dallas at Washington with the 425 game. Dallas beat Washington 38-10. It finally gave Dallas that road win that they were desperately needing all year long, and it gave them the NFC East title and showed that they could win way far away from Arlington. So, Ray, what did you think about that game?
I'll say that I did not see 1 second of it, but there was no way Dallas was losing to Washington. It was like Buffalo going into New England. You never know with division foes. Anything can happen, but there was too much on the line. When you have a team like Washington at the end of the year, I've got to think players at that point, holidays are over, the off season's there. Just let me get out safe, uninjured, and get me out of here. So they had nothing to play for. They have their quarterback next few years probably. They knew their coach was going to get fired. Dallas had to win. If they didn't win, what? I think McCarthy would have been gone, maybe sooner than later. I mean, depending on how they do in the playoffs, he might be gone. But
it still ended up working out too, though, because the Giants thumped Philly. So,
and happy for Dable to do that. But Dallas, just too good of a team. I know we handled them pretty well, but I guess good for them that they did it on the road. They scored a bunch of points and not just kept them to at home. But they're a force to be reckoned with also. Washington just wanted to get out of there.
Although I don't think it looked like in the beginning of the game with Eric the Enemy calling all these trick plays and everything, though, to try to confuse Dallas's defense. He was certainly still playing for his job.
Sure, right. And they knew that's the only way to beat them probably. I mean, if you got to start pulling that stuff out, which I enjoy, then you're saying we can't get you head to head. We got to play with your heads.
And it's like, what are you going to do? Ban the Philly special and ban all those razzle dazzle plays that everybody loves now? I mean, that's another fun part of the NFL that's evolved too, is watching everybody pull those like it's flag football, except you're still tackle football.
Still waiting for the Bills to do one of those. It's like, come on, we need a little creative play here. I'm constantly pushing for something in my head for them, but
right. But so, Joe, what did you think of that game?
I did get to watch these games. With all the scenarios and all the craziness of this last week, I was watching NFL Red Zone, so I feel like I watched every game. And they were showing this one quite a bit. I think, if I remember correctly, Washington was winning this game at one point, or it was close. Now it's a different situation. I was talking about how the Titans, playing a division rival, and that was their Super Bowl, and would like nothing better than to knock their division rival out. A different situation, I think, here in Washington. As Ray said, I think they knew the coach was on his way out the door. There's not the same, I don't know, not the same passion here in this situation.
Mhm.
Dallas is a much better team than Jacksonville, I think, anyway. So Dallas just, for the impression I got for the parts of this game that I saw, they just came in and said, look, we're just going to take care of business. We're going to take this division against an inferior team, and maybe tripped a couple of times in the beginning and got off to a bit of a slow start, but eventually took the game over, showed who was boss, and got themselves in some good momentum going forward. And this is a team that's going to be reckoned with going forward here the next couple of weeks. But I appreciated how they just took care of business here and beat the inferior opponent, and gets the division title that they certainly deserve.
I agree with that. I just think there was no way Dallas would lose this game, but we did see this last year when they lost to Washington in the final game of the regular season. It cost them the division title, but Dallas was saying, not this year, folks. We won't.
Right.
We were coming in winning that game, and like you said, Ray, if Washington had to pull all those razzle-dazzle Philly special plays at the beginning to try to beat them, they weren't going to beat them head-to-head.
Well, Dallas was in the same spot as the Bills, playing for the 2 seed. They had so much to gain. You're guaranteed 2 home games, providing you win the first, and you never know what happens to the 1st seed. They had everything to play for. Don't mess around. Take care of business, like you said, Joe.
Right.
Because when you mess around, you find out.
Yeah.
That's the popular phrase goes. Anyway, let's wrap up the last game of the night. Our Buffalo Bills on the road in the Sunshine State at the Miami Dolphins. With the Bills already clinching a playoff spot, they beat the Dolphins 21-14 and are now AFC East champs for 4 years in a row. So, Joe, what did you think of that close matchup?
Yeah, it was close. It was scary. Now, again, I liked having that safety net. I joked with my daughter earlier in the day. I said, maybe it would be more exciting if Jacksonville wins, because this game would be so much more intense and exciting, with the Bills having to play for their playoff lives. But I quickly thought about that as like, you know what? No, I want that safety net. Certainly wanted the division, certainly wanted to win the game. And it's funny, as I got more involved in the game and as it got going, I was rooting more and more. It's like, forget the 6th seed or 7th seed, whatever it was going to be, the 7th seed. Forget that. Let's just get this done. Let's be the number 2 seed. Let's have that pride of winning our 4th division title in a row. And, and that happened. They pulled it off. And you know what? To me, experience showed here. The Dolphins are not used to being in this position. They came close to playoff spots and lost those, but really not in a situation like this where the division is on the line. And I think they had to be a little disheartened too. Again, you would have talked to them a month ago. I think they thought they had this division wrapped up. And based on the way they were playing, based on the way the Bills were playing, I would have agreed with that. But I think going into this game, I think they were a little disheartened just with the fact that now we're playing. We had this division wrapped up, and now we're fighting for it. And I just saw the Bills' experience come out in this game. They played like they've been there before, and got the result that they deserved, I think. And not that the Dolphins played a horrible game by any means. I mean, they certainly had a chance to win this game, and there was even a few times where I was like, oh my God, they're going to take this game. And the Bills seem to have been the dominant team, but I said, why do I just feel like this game's not going to go their way? So, kudos to the Bills. I mean, again, I think they showed their experience, and the experienced team took it.
And before I turn it over to Ray, Joe, you did mention earlier last episode, I was worried it may take one bad play for the Bills not to win it, and that did almost happen at the end of the first half, where we had our New York Giants Brian Daboll moment where we threw the ball just into short of the 1 yard line, didn't call a timeout, and ended up with no points there. And I thought that was gonna derail us, but it didn't. So
yeah, I didn't want to be right about that prediction, but you're right. It almost came to fruition.
Yeah. So anyway, Ray, what do you think? How awesome was this game?
Jamie, I could spend 2 hours with you guys talking about just this game. How ironic. All right, the Bills' first game of the year and the last game of the year were decided on a punt return. The victor won it because of a punt return. The Jets in overtime, Hardy, that just got us going. I just thought how ironic the punt return. And in fact, I was even wondering, why are you returning it? You're on the 5 yard line. Let it go. And it ends up being the longest punt return for a touchdown in Bills history, a
98 yard. I think, was it 95 or 98?
I want to say 95. I might be off a yard.
95. There we go.
This game was so critical for both teams to get that number 2 seed. And this is why. I had heard earlier in the week in GR that the Dolphins haven't won a road playoff game in 24 years. And ironically, tonight, January 9th, it's been 24 years since Miami has won a road game, and it was against Seattle. Now, that doesn't mean they wouldn't win a road game now, but there's certain things that just hover over an organization. On the flip side, Buffalo has not won a road, and that'll lead to my trivia question to you later, Jamie, a road playoff game in 31 years. So you have the Dolphins for 24 and Bills for 31 years. It doesn't mean that they can't or they won't. Some players weren't alive. Things just hover. We can't beat Jacksonville, and that goes back to 1995 in Jim Kelly's last game. So I really wanted this game because I wanted the home field as long as we can go. A couple things that I was impressed with. I was impressed with McDermott going for it on his own side of the field late in the game. That is not a McDermott move. He's punt the ball away, and I trust my defense, rightfully so. But he went for it, and he got it. And so I was proud of him for that. The more I watch Kincaid, the more I want more Kincaid. It's not anything with Dawson Knox, but he's just he produces. And I think, I think I was on with you guys early in the year. The biggest blessing of Knox getting hurt was to show what Kincaid can do. It forced them in this situation. So I want more Kincaid all the time. Jamie, I don't know if you're old enough to know this. Do you remember the Ronnie Harmon drop in Cleveland?
I've heard of it, though. I wasn't alive for it.
It was like 34 seconds left in the game, and he dropped the ball for a touchdown. And I'm getting that vision in my head with Cook every time he's dropping these balls for touchdowns in Philadelphia. Here, there was another impactful play that would have helped in the standings a handful of weeks ago. I mean, I love the guy. I'm not saying don't play him, but it makes me think: are we going to see a little more Fournette now in the playoffs? Being a veteran, being even though they haven't thrown to him.
Playoff Lenny. Let's see if he lives up to the
name.
Hey, he's a Super Bowl champ, right? So you know, I think they need to play him more in there.
And it's how ironic that these players, these two wide receivers, Sherfield and Hardy, who had big expectations for him, and maybe it was because of Dorsey. You know, the whole offense seemed out of sync for all those weeks. That those guys came up in the biggest game of the year with a terrific catch. The former Dolphin in his former stadium, right? Made that incredible concentrated play, and Hardy with the return. I mean, these guys have been non-impactful all year until the 18th week of the season, and I think we're going to see more Sherfield this year or this upcoming week if Davis doesn't play. I'm trying to looking at a few of my notes. Oh, the other thing that I saw was The Bills only allowed 57 yards in the second half. And I think 7 of it was rushing. They just did an incredible play, or played incredibly. Joe, they looked like the veteran team.
Right.
And the biggest disappointment would have been if we didn't defeat them with their depleted team. Just the way it works, I'm sorry that they were hurt, but it works out for us. We had to go through many injuries this year, and that would have been tough to stomach if we would have lost with what was on the line and their key players, Waddle out. Their defense.
That opportunity.
Oh, the opportunity was there, and after the Kansas City game, to go from the 12th seed in the hunt to number 2.
Right.
Incredible. You almost feel, and we'll look back in a few weeks like, are we destined here? As frustrating as season has been, and it just played with your emotions and more anger for me than happiness. We're there. We're right where we wanted to be in the beginning of the year. And the first seed, I'm not going to get too greedy, but we're right where we had hoped to be for a couple of home games. And now we got to take care of business.
Exactly. Take care of ourselves and let the cards fall where they may. We go attack it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
I did not see them as a 2 seed in the beginning of the season. I predicted 10-7 record, and maybe like a 3 or a 4 seed. So this is a major bonus.
It's so opportunistic with the Chiefs being down, with Burrow getting hurt. This is our time, right? Hopefully, the season's not over. I'm not going to take the Steelers lightly, but we've got to win that game. And then after that, then you got 4 excellent teams that are left in the hunt. So take care of business.
And that's it. And the biggest bonus of all to me is that 6 weeks ago, I highly doubted we'd even be having this conversation.
Yes.
Instead of talking about how the Bills got to the 2 seed, I thought we'd be talking about how this season went down the drain and why are the Bills out of the playoffs when nobody expected this.
Or
That's
maybe
the conversation I expected to be having 6 weeks ago.
Absolutely. Even McDermott, maybe him being on the hot seat, and he just solidified he's coming back. So we don't have to worry about that.
Definitely.
Exactly. Anyway, it is now that time for our question of the week segment. So, Ray, would you like to give our question a try?
I am going to try. As I've been watching your podcast weekly, I have not been doing well. But that doesn't mean I won't get it right this week.
Anyway, okay, so here's your question. Can you guess this NFL player? He had 1 Super Bowl appearance, no rings, 1 MVP, meaning he won the MVP once and played for 4 different teams. Is it Cam Newton, Rich Gannon, Steve McNair, or Matty Ice, Matt Ryan?
Wow. Well, Matt Ryan, I think, just played for 2, the Colts and the Falcons. So I'm going to eliminate him. McNair, he did go to the Super Bowl, but I don't think McNair was an MVP. I got to tell you, before you even read off the answers, I was thinking Cam Newton all the way. So I'm going to stick with Cam Newton as my guess.
Nope, that's not the correct answer. Joe, do you want to give it a try?
Yeah, can you just repeat the question again?
Yes, exactly. This NFL player made 1 Super Bowl, never won it, has no rings, was an league MVP once, and played for 4 different teams.
All right, and so it's not Newton, and who are the choices?
Rich Gannon, Steve McNair, or Matt Ryan.
Well, we know it's not Newton. And thanks to Ray reminding me, I agree. I don't think it's Matt Ryan. I mean, he did play in a Super Bowl, but I think he was only with a couple of teams. Wait a minute. So McNair and who else now?
Cam Newton and Rich Gannon.
Because I think oh, shoot.
I shouldn't have rushed. It was the 4 teams that I should have spent a little more time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Gannon played for the 4 teams either. I know he played for at least 2. I'm going to go with McNair.
Nope, neither of you guys got it right. And actually, guess what the correct answer was? It was Rich Gannon.
Gannon.
Okay.
After you said no, Jamie, then I remembered that. But I couldn't think of the other teams he played for.
I couldn't. Yeah, I can only think of two.
Raiders and then
The Chiefs before.
Chiefs.
Correct. I believe you. I just
Yeah.
when you don't think of it, it's like, oh.
And Steve
an excellent-
McNair played for 2 before he died. He was with Tennessee, and then he went to Baltimore, I think.
Okay.
Right,
For
yes,
some reason, I
yes.
thought he played more, but that's an excellent question.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, can I throw
Rest in
one your
peace,
way?
Aaron McNair. What?
Can I throw a question your way?
Go ahead.
Bills?
Go ahead. Yes.
All right. As I said
Please do.
earlier, it's been 31 years since the Bills have won a road playoff game. So the question is, which team did they defeat last? Was it the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Seattle Seahawks when they were in the AFC?
I can eliminate it down to 2. Actually, I know the 2. I can eliminate the Chiefs and the Seahawks, and I know it's between the Steelers and the Dolphins because that was the year we didn't win the AFC East. Miami won the AFC East that year, and that was also the year of the comeback, comeback game. And I do know after we played Houston, we had to play Pittsburgh, and we did win that game. But that's not actually the last road game we won. It was the Miami Dolphins in the AFC Championship game against Marino because we had to beat them on the road to go play the Cowboys in the Super Bowl that year. So I'm going to say Miami.
You were perfect in your analysis. You got it right. That was a good process of eliminating those other teams, and you went right down the road. Good job.
That's funny. I would have said the Chiefs. I thought it was the Chiefs.
No, we beat them at home the next year to play Dallas the second year.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of with Montana, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I was thinking that was in Kansas City, but I'm wrong. That's
and
another
how
excellent
ironic,
question.
because the other night I was thinking, I know it's week 18, but to me in my mind, I was looking at it as a playoff game between Miami and the Bills, just because of what was at stake. And I thought, geez, I already knew the question I was going to ask Jamie, and I'm like, geez, 31 years, and how ironic, this is the team that we're defeating at that we were playing that night.
That's awesome.
Good job.
And don't forget that was the only Super Bowl year where we didn't win the division because Miami won the AFC East that year.
And
that's why we had to. But it was actually back then. That this was weird. We still ended up getting that home playoff game against the Oilers, even though we didn't win the division, because I don't think that would happen now.
Nope.
Where if your team didn't win the division, you would still get a home playoff game in the wild card.
That's right.
Because of the way the alignments were then.
I think there were only 3 divisions back then, and that's why the 4th team got the wild card. And that game against Miami, I was actually nervous because Kelly was hurt he was out for a while with a knee injury, and I was wondering if he was going to be rusty coming back, and it looked pretty good, and we won against Marino.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's how long it's been. That's why home field to me is so critical. It's hard to win a road playoff game in general, and it's been over 3 decades for us.
Wow.
I know. But thanks for the question, though. That was awesome.
Good job. Thank you.
Thanks. So now I'd like to turn our attention over to this upcoming Super Wild Card playoff matches. This is the first time that the 3 Lake Erie teams, the Browns, Bills, and Steelers, have all made it to the postseason in NFL history. I wonder if you guys knew that.
I did not know that.
And guess what? I've been in my short 27 years of existence, I've been praying that one day that was going to happen, and it did. It came true. All 3 of those teams made it.
I did not know that.
You learn something new every day. So anyway, we start with the Cleveland Browns at the petty Houston Texans, or the hungry Houston Texans, at 4:30 p.m. With the Browns having to start 4 different quarterbacks this year, they have overcome many challenges to become the 5th seed to take on Houston. Joe, what do you think about this matchup, and who do you think comes out as the winner?
You got two excellent teams. We were raving about the Texans earlier, and how they certainly deserve to be here. And, we've raved throughout the year on this podcast about the Cleveland Browns and how, again, nobody expected them to do what they were doing, and how we were celebrating the fact that they were doing it without Deshaun Watson. So, I honestly hate to see somebody lose this game because, two feel-good stories here. Again, I said Stefanski, and it's certainly not rocket science. I think he's coach of the year, and a lot of people would agree with me on that. So, again, two great feel-good stories here. But I think nobody's expecting Houston to win this game. They're at home. They have a confidence about them. They have that probably playing with house money, they feel like. So I think Houston takes this. I'm going to give a score 23-20.
You got Houston. Would you say 23-20?
23-20 Houston.
Okay.
Yes.
Ray, what do you think?
I agree with Joe. I think Houston's going to win it. They are playing with house money. What a perfect expression for that. The thing that makes me not nervous, but Flacco being the veteran, being to a Super Bowl, he's on the road. I mean, Cleveland's in a good spot having the right guy for them. If Houston was on the road, I would have picked Cleveland. But since Houston's at home, I just think they're going to have a lot of fun. I think they're going to be amped up. I don't think Houston is going to be scared. I think Stroud will be a little nervous. This is big time, but I love that Singletary is experienced, and he's been to the playoffs as a ball carrier. But I think this is, and even if they do end up losing, this is going to be so beneficial to them for in the years to come. But I'm predicting Houston to win also, and I think they're gonna pour it on. I'm going to say 34-19.
Ooh.
Ooh.
No, I'm ooh too.
I'm actually going to agree with Joe on this one. I think Cleveland, having Joe Flacco as the veteran, winning a Super Bowl, being there before, I think he's going to give Cleveland a good fight in the end. But I think the KG rookie, CJ Stroud, finds a way to pull it out, and I think he leads them to a game-winning field goal. I think Houston beats the Browns 24-21.
How exciting.
Exactly. So now moving on to the Miami Dolphins traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs at 8 p.m. This is the first time a game will be streaming on Peacock, and I'm just glad it wasn't the Bills game, as I don't have Peacock. Anyway, so no offense, Joe, because you got that $1.99. You got the great deal for the Peacock, so congratulations to you on that. Let me give my Pat McAfee clap for that.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what I get for being a Premier League soccer fan. See, the benefits of this.
Anyway, though, Ray, what are your thoughts on this game, and who do you think wins?
If Miami was healthy, I would have picked Miami, but I don't see it happening. I'm pulling for them, whether they're a division foe or not. I'll do anything to get Kansas City out of the playoffs because, Joe, I've been watching you, and if lightning hits the bottle, they're such a lucky team. I mean, they're a good team, Kansas City, but I think talent will shine in that game at home. I just think Miami's too injured. So I'm going to pick Kansas City 26-18.
Joe?
Yeah, you were mentioning Kansas City being lucky. This is the best matchup they could have had. This is the worst matchup the Dolphins could have had. You were just talking, Ray, about how the Dolphins haven't won a road playoff game in like 100 years here. And now they're going to go to a place where it's literally going to be between 5 and 10 degrees.
Right.
So teams in Florida don't play well in situations like that. And I was listening to something. I wish I would have paid a little more attention. I had a national broadcast on, and they were saying, I think the Dolphins, when the temperature is under 50, they're like 0-11.
Wow.
Or something along those lines. So, or maybe if it was under 40, they were 0-11, or 0-7, I think they said, under 40, and then like 1-11 under 50, something like that. Like I said, I should have paid attention. But the bottom line is they don't play well. Neither do any of the Florida teams. They don't play well in situations like that. And the fact that, again, like you said, they're banged up, I still think they're a little disheartened. And playing in an environment like that, I think that, again, the Chiefs are going to wake up. I think they know that they've been given a golden opportunity here. So I don't think the Chiefs blow them out, but I really think this is one of those games where the score is going to be closer than it's indicated. I say Chiefs 28, Dolphins 17, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be a point where the outcome of this game is in doubt.
There's a couple of Miami players. I forgot, is the guy with the blonde hair, Van Enkel? I think he's out.
Van Dingle, yeah.
And there's another guy that they took a beating. I'm not even sure Waddle's status. I mean, if anything, can they get into a shootout? But I think they need Waddle to do it. Mm-hmm. But he may not even be available.
Right.
Here's what I think. I think this is going to be an interesting game. Miami's deflated from losing to Buffalo, but this is also Tyreek Hill's first visit back to Arrowhead since he was let go by the Chiefs.
Good point.
And this could be a game, I think, where Tyreek Hill goes off and shows the Chiefs why they got rid of him. And I do think Miami has a chance if they were healthy, but I think Kansas City survives. I think they win 27-17.
And again, I don't usually root for the Dolphins when I watch, but I hate the Chiefs more. So I'll be rooting for the Dolphins, but I think it's going to be, in vain because I don't see them having a chance in this game.
Mm-hmm. And also starting on Sunday with our game at 1:00 is the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to Buffalo, taking on our Buffalo Bills. While the Bills have just clinched their 4th straight AFC East division title, having this home game surely helps in their quest for the AFC division round. Joe, what are your thoughts about this game and who are you rooting for to win?
I think maybe I'll root for the Bills. We'll see. But seriously, we were talking about how, again, there's no easy games here. And certainly the Steelers are going to show up and they're going to play well. I don't know what it is about the Steelers coming to Buffalo. Doesn't it seem like every one of these is like an ugly game?
Yes.
It's sloppy, it's boring. It's, the Bills lost the season opener to the Steelers in a game like that not too long ago. So I don't see this as last Sunday, as a nail biter, as like, wow, this is must-see football TV here. I think the Bills win and I think the weather might have something to do with that too. It's not supposed to be very nice. There might be some precipitation. So, I think there's going to be a lot of factors into that. I see the Bills playing a business as usual. 21-10. I don't see the Steelers scoring a lot of points. I really think they don't match up well against the Bills defense. I think the defense is going to play very strongly. The offense, again, sloppy at times, nothing spectacular, gets the job done. But again, I don't see the Steelers scoring a lot of points. 21-10 Buffalo, in my opinion.
Okay, Ray?
I agree with Joe. I mean, I think it might be one of those games where, we would be a heavy favorite and all of a sudden the road team comes and gets an early field goal. How many times have you seen that? They come out and score first and you think, oh no, what's going on? But the weather will play a part, and that is definitely to Pittsburgh's advantage because now it starts to level the playing field a little bit with our pass attack. There's no way we lose this game unless Allen gets hurt. Because of the weather, I don't think it'll be high scoring. I'm with Joe. I think it's like a 20-10 game. Pittsburgh, I think they just don't have enough. They just don't have enough firepower. With TJ Watt being out, I mean, I still would have picked the Bills, but he's that X factor where, with the fumbleitis that Allen can have, a strip sack, I think that big threat goes away. But I think Buffalo all the way, 20-10.
Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be a business as usual game. As we mentioned, the Steelers don't score a lot of points. They have the lowest scoring offense, one of the lowest scoring offenses in the league. And I think this is a game where, like McDermott did against Dallas in cold weather, we just pound the rock with James Cook. I think he rushes for over 100 yards, and I think we win 24-10.
Ironically, I looked at the all-time head-to-head matchup. We're 1-2 against them in the playoffs all time. I thought we would have played them a little bit more, and that's not indicative of who's going to win or going to lose this weekend, but we're 1-2. And one of those games, Jamie, is the one that our lone win is the one you mentioned when we went to Pittsburgh 31 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So
anyway, then let's move on to my mom's favorite team, the Green Bay not the Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys. Excuse me there. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening. The Dallas Cowboys at 4:30 taking on the Green Bay Packers, as Chris Berman would say it like that. So with the Green Bay Packers coming to Arlington, and Mike McCarthy saw first playoff game against his former team as head coach of the Cowboys, to play this NFC wildcard showdown. The Packers are coming in as underdogs, but the Cowboys don't want to take them lightly, as Green Bay has eliminated them in the past in the playoffs. So, Ray, do you think that Dallas being beasts at home will play into the Cowboys' advantage here and will help them win this game?
absolutely. I make the same argument as the Bills playing the Steelers and should win. I think it's the same thing with Dallas against Green Bay. I'm very happy for Green Bay with Rodgers being gone and Jordan Love getting his chance to start. It didn't look so good in the beginning of the year for the Packers, but I think they're just simply outmatched, overmatched by Dallas. So I'm predicting Dallas. I don't think they're going to get their 40 points, but I'm going to say it'll be a 31-17 game in favor of Dallas.
Joe?
Yeah, I agree. I was afraid when you said your mom was a Packers fan. I was like, uh-oh, what I'm about to say is going to offend, because I think this is going to be the least close of any of the playoff games. I something in sports fascinates me is home dominance. And I've been saying all year, I've been tracking, the Cowboys. At one point they were outscoring opponents 40-15 at home. Well, it's not that much different now. I think in the 8 games that they've played there, they've outscored their opponents 37-16.
Wow.
Now, I don't think it's going to be like that. Ray, you said 31-17?
31-17. And I didn't even know those stats.
Yeah. I was about to say the score here to be 30-17. So we seem to be on the same page with that. But I think, again, it's another game that's not even going to be that close. I think, part of it is the Dallas factor, and they played home playoff games recently, and they've choked them away against inferior teams. But, and that's always a possibility here. But, again, I've been saying all year, this Dallas team is different. Whether they get to the Super Bowl or not, I don't know. They're certainly capable of it. But this game, I don't think gives them much issue. I think they play at home like they've been playing all year long. Again, maybe not a 37-16 difference like they've averaged, but fairly close to that. 30-17, I think an easy win for the Cowboys.
And that makes 3 for 3. I think Jordan Love, it's a good feel-good story, taking over for Aaron Rodgers, leading the youngest team into the playoffs, but their inexperience and going in on the road at Dallas is going to be too much for them. I think the Cowboys win 35-13.
Yeah.
Ending the night with the Los Angeles Rams traveling to the Motor City to play the Detroit Lions. This will be Matthew Stafford's first trip back to Detroit as a Ram. Joe, do you see a possible upset with this game?
I see a definite upset with this game. We can't, this is getting too boring here, right? We can't go with chalk the whole time here, and we got to pick some upsets. And I promise, if there's any Lions fans that have watched this podcast throughout, I seem to be down on the Lions. I said they wouldn't even make the playoffs in the beginning of the season. They proved me wrong by not only making the playoffs, but winning the division. And don't get me wrong, I would love to see this team win the Super Bowl. I honestly would. But again, if I got to pick upsets here, and I don't have to, but I think if there's going to be a big upset in this first round, this is going to be it. This is going to be a classic game, possibly even overtime, in my opinion. I think the experience comes through. The Rams have been playing over their heads all year. I did not see them even being a playoff team, never mind, a playoff team with some positive momentum going here. So, I think it's close. I think I was just looking at my notes to see what score I wrote down. I didn't pick it to go into overtime, but I have it Rams 24, Lions 23. Both teams play great. Both teams deserve to win, but in the end, experience plays out, and the Rams make the upset.
Ray, what do you think?
Joe, you're a mind reader. I'm thinking the same thing. No matter what sport it is in the playoffs, NCAA, basketball tournament, NHL hockey, baseball, football, there's always an upset in the first round. And I didn't want to just always go with the home. This is the one. I think this is the one where the road team gets it. I think it's going to be an exciting game. Mm-hmm. Wasn't everybody rooting for these two teams to play each other because of the swap in quarterbacks? I mean, in fact, I'm even making a prediction. I think Dan Campbell is going to do something creative and make it obvious to the referees that this is the guy that we want catching the football. I think there's going to be some kind of statement made. I don't know how he's going to do it, but it's going to be a close one. I can see at the last possession, something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Good or bad, team's going to be denied, or they're going to make it. But I do think Detroit's going to be a little nervous, because they won a division. They're in the playoffs. A lot is expected from them, and I think they're going to be in over themselves. But I'm going to say 28-24, the Rams.
Okay.
How about
and
you,
guess
Jamie?
what? Make that 3 for 3. I think Matthew Stafford comes in to Detroit and says, "Sorry, Jared Goff. I still own the Motor City. I still own the Ford plants that were built here." You think he's going to come in there and dominate? Maybe they win on a last-second field goal. And I think here's my theory. I think the Lions are going to what's going to happen. This is going to happen like it happened to the Bills. They're going to miss the field goal, the Rams, but Detroit's going to have 12 guys on the field. And then they kick the game-winning field goal again and make it. So I think the Rams win 30-28 with the flair of dramatics at the end.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope so.
Okay. And finally, are you ready for some more football? A Monday night party. We have Joe, Ray, and don't forget me, Jamie too. But seriously, folks, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Well, it looked like the Eagles were a shoo-in for the number 2 seed in the NFC, but all of a sudden, losing to the Cardinals and the Giants, they fell short. So, Ray, what do you think that the Eagles can push their way to a Super Bowl run, or do you think Baker and the Bucks create some Mayfield magic here?
Well, I think they're going to need a lot of tush-push. The image I have in my head is of his finger, Hurts' finger. I mean, I don't know how you throw a ball really well when it's going, or I should say like this, bent the other way. Mm-hmm. I know they have incredible medical staffs to do what they got to do, but I know as a human being, I wouldn't be able to throw a ball, let alone brush my teeth. So I think that evens the playing field. I think it would be an upset for Tampa to win at home, just because they're the Philadelphia Eagles. And I am predicting Mayfield. He's had a quiet, decent year. Not MVP, nothing that I think would get past the first or past the second round. But I think Tampa will win this game. if Hurts was healthy, I'm definitely picking them. But because it's at home and because of that finger, I'm predicting Tampa to win 18-14.
Oh,
Joe, your thoughts?
all right. Just like I said, the podcast might be a little too boring if we didn't pick some upsets. It's get a little too boring if we agree on everything. Every time you have a Super Bowl team that's down and people kick them when they're down, they get up and just surprise everybody and just say, you know what, we're still here. And I saw that picture of the finger on TV. The Eagles are completely banged up. I agree, with your assessment of Mayfield here. He's played solid quarterback. The team loves him. I've been hearing reports on that, and they really like having him as their leader, and he's done great things all year. And I think this is going to be another fun game to watch. It's going to go down to the wire, but I think somehow, some way, the Eagles pull this off. And I'm going to say Eagles 23, Buccaneers 20. Just because, again, you were talking, Jamie, about the Eagles going on a possible Super Bowl run. I think it ends here. I think they win this game and they don't progress, after this. But I do think, they silence the critics. They get this win, and at least, they can have the satisfaction that if they do lose the next game, you know what, we won a tough playoff game, and things didn't end in the disaster that, it was heading towards. So, 23-20 Eagles, I say here.
I'm going to go with Ray here. I think the Mayfield magic is there Mayfield mania or Mayfield magic's real right now. I just think Jalen Hurts, his finger's hurting really bad right now that I don't know if they can push their way to victory. I think the Buccaneers are going to win this game. I got 22-20, and I think we're going to be in for a primetime fight because all our rowdy friends are here on Monday night. Anyway, sorry, folks. I got a little carried away with that. I love that. It's a classic.
We encourage that, Jamie. Keep doing it.
Jamie, can I admit something? When I was watching the Jacksonville game the other day, I thought of you, and I got to tell you, this is exactly what I was saying. And it was Remember the Titans. Have you seen the movie Remember the Titans?
Yes, I have.
Bye,
probably.
Sunshine. See you, Sunshine. Trevor Lawrence. I was thinking of you, and all I could say is goodbye, Sunshine.
Well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our show. Joe, where can we find you in the social media world on Tuesday, January the 9th, 2024?
So I still can't get used to saying 2024, just like I still can't get used to saying X. All right. So reality is 2024. Reality is still Twitter, in my opinion, whatever you want to call it. Joe Dell Sports, I am on there. You can find my little opinions and snippets there.
Okay. Ray, you don't have social media, but tell all these nice folks here where they can find you, though, even though you don't have social media.
Well, if they listen to WGR, I go by Ray and Clarence. And it's amazing how many of my friends call me after and say, I heard you on the radio. So maybe I'm getting a little bigger than I'm thinking now. But it is fun. It's fun to hear. I just heard a first-time caller, a friend from many years ago. I recognized his voice. And indeed, it was him. But Ray and Clarence on WGR.
Okay, and then you could always find me, yours truly, on Bills Chat 1 at Bills Mafia Chat and Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and DefiantTakesFootball.com, where I write stories about the Bills, Syracuse football, and spring football. And I just wrote a story about the new USFL merging and explaining how that's going to work with the 8 teams. And we do know right now in that merger that the Birmingham Stallions and the Arlington Renegades are going to kick off the first game on Saturday, March 30th, 2024 in Arlington. And also check out some of my published articles about Syracuse football coach Fran Brown being hired and his new recruiting prospects. Those are also good too. So thank you very much for listening. And remember, folks, the 3 Lake Erie teams finally all made the playoffs together. This is the first time Peacock will be streaming a playoff game. And the Buffalo Bills have won the AFC East division 4 years in a row, which leads to a quote from our great friend, Bills Mafia friend, and ESPN broadcaster Chris Berman. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. We'll see you next time, folks, and we hope to come back to you with great news. Goodbye.
Yes. Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.